Inscryption is a hard game to pin down without spoiling stuff, which I'll generally try not to do, at least blatantly. It initially presents itself as a roguelike deck builder with mild escape room elements thrown in, and those monikers were what sold me on it to begin with. You're playing a card game with a mysterious dark figure who's gone all out in the Dungeons and Dragons-esque lore department, setting up the boards, narrating your experience, cosplaying as various NPCs and bosses in the name of immersion, while you play and build your deck of beastly creatures, discovering synergies, upgrades, sacrifices, totem buffs, and attacking your opponent's telegraph strategies. This part of the game is stellar. The card battling at its core is some of the best I've ever seen, and solving puzzles in the room you're in as the player, where you get up from the table and walk around, can give you bonuses to help your future runs, like an extra life or usable items. The map is very reminiscent of Slay the Spire, with 3 different biomes before the final boss, full of different paths to take to make different things happen. I got the satisfaction of watching this loop play out 5 or 6 times before I finally won, but winning is far from the end of the story. Winning is when shit gets weird. I don't want to talk about most of it in detail to keep the surprises intact, but suffice it to say, Inscryption has more story threads going on than you think, more cards than you think, more characters than you think, etc., and it's simultaneously enthralling and disappointing. Don't get me wrong, you won't be disappointed until you finally beat the game for real, and the disappointment will have nothing to do with how it ends or what you've been doing the whole time, but more about what the game actually cements itself as an experience. By the way, Inscryption is most definitely one of those games. If you've played Doki Doki Literature Club or Undertale or anything like that where the fourth wall exists to be absolutely shattered, let's just say your Steam account and the files on your PC are fair game in this bitch. But more to the point of what I'm saying, this game is a single-player campaign from front to back, and the roguelike designation stops applying after a while. Once you beat the game, it's not going to be different the next time around. This is a very specifically tailored experience that you have a little wiggle room in with regard to your actual deck. I don't think it's replayable at all, beyond going back to a specific short segment of the story and just screwing around with different deck strategies, but it's hard to do that when the game wraps itself up so definitively that you just feel like you're done forever afterwards, which is partly a compliment. What I do think is that it's an engaging like no other experience that I played for 8 straight hours well into the night, then woke up and finished the next 4 to beat the game. I was hooked on every aspect, and the only letdown is that there isn't more to do when it's over. So let's jump into the game graph, plugging in story, graphics, mechanics, challenge, and fun into a bar graph that looks nice and then chucking it out the window for the final overall score. The story definitely shines in Inscryption. There are always threads being tugged on as you play, and the notion that something deeper yet to be explained is going on, and I was on it for the full ride. Big 95 from me. The graphics are fine, the cards are neat looking, and the general style of the game is pleasurably foreboding. It also changes at times, so it's hard to grade as one entity, but I'll give it an 80. I don't know where to start with mechanics. The card game roguelike escape room trio is a spectacular combo, but that's not what the whole game is. However, the core of the card battling stuff does remain intact all the way through. It just puts on a few different costumes as it goes along, which either enhance or diminish it. I said it was one of the best deck builders I've ever played, and I meant it, so mechanics get a 95. Challenge is a meaningless category in terms of overall score. It's only about how easy or hard something is, and not whether the challenge is good or not. Maybe I'll just stop using it as a metric entirely, but Inscryption gets a 60 for challenge. It's not a tough game to understand, and since you and the AI don't play by the same rules, the rules the AI does play by can be easy to exploit, and you can win even with a deck that sucks ass. Now for fun. Inscryption is a really fun game that needs post-game content. When you play enough and see the real potential Inscryption has, specifically as a card game, you'll be sad to realize it sacrifices tons of replayability and variety in service to the narrative. What you play is absolutely incredible for the most part, but it's designed to be fleeting, even for a 13-hour campaign. It's like a cake that you eat, and it's delicious, and you're like, wow, that was so good, can we bake another cake? And it's like, no, we destroyed the oven and burned down the house, there will be no more cake ever. And you're like, oh man, that's the essence of Inscryption. Tasty despair. Fun gets an 85. Overall score time. This is so hard for a game like this. I don't mind this being a game like Doki Doki that's just like an impermanent phenomenon that leaves a lasting impression, but I want that in addition to being able to jump back in outside of the story and just play some cards, man. If they ever do post-game content, they should consider multiplayer as well. There's just so much here that would make such a good permanent card game, but it hasn't been done yet, so Inscryption gets an 89 for what it is. That's gonna do it for this game graph. I hope you enjoyed it. Like the video and subscribe and whatever else you'd be inclined to, and I'll see you guys next time.